Hey, what's up guys? Today we are going to talk about blending licks and chords together. I've gotten this question pretty frequently and I've addressed it kind of here and there in bits and pieces, but we're going to go all out and totally pull the curtain back and reveal just how simple it can be to blend licks and chords together. And of course that's kind of an ambiguous subject, right? It kind of depends on what genre you're in. That will sort of dictate what you are blending together, whether it's shred licks into a crazy heavy riff, or if it's more of an R&B approach that is a little bit more sparse or something else. It can really mean a lot of things to different guitar players, but I'm going to take a sort of foundational basic approach to blending licks together using some concepts that I think you may already be familiar with, and then that way you can really apply this to whatever style guitar you're playing and take these underlying themes and again figure out where they fit depending on which genre you choose. So let's start in the key of B minor. How about that? So the first way that we can blend licks and chords is to actually form licks out of little chords. And what I mean by little chords are double stops. And double stops are any two notes ringing simultaneously. So this would be an example of a double stop. Notice how we have the G and B ringing simultaneously, and I got a little bend happening on that G. This is a classic lick that pretty much everyone knows, right? Now, as you combine other little pentatonic tricks like this, notice how each attack contained at least two notes ringing out. You can sometimes do up to 3 or 4 notes. And end with a little single line. And then with a little trickery in the right hand, you can actually separate the strings and skip strings to form double stops like this. So I was actually playing non-adjacent strings to form these double stops. So this is the first kind of way to get yourself into blending licks and chords, is to actually just play licks like you're normally used to, but attack multiple strings at once. And as I mentioned, the pentatonic scale can be really helpful because it's already sort of laid out in a box shape where you can kind of bar your finger and then have all the action happening with the double stops to form these little chord licks. Now moving forward here, I'm going to use a little example of a song you might know, Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer. This is a really great song to move one step further in blending licks and chords. The real key to blending licks and chords, I think, is all in the rhythm. And as you kind of move through a chord progression that you're really familiar with, you can start to insert licks in place of chords, and that's where the blending starts to happen. But as long as you are solid on the rhythmic side of things, it will all feel much more natural and you'll feel like the concept is really hitting home. So here's the chord progression, just chords, no licks. Very nice. Now we're going to start throwing in some licks, and these are actually kind of licks that are part of the song, not necessarily verbatim, but you get the picture. So real simple stuff here, just again out of that B minor pentatonic shape. It is very simple to insert some licks in the spaces and the gaps between these chords. So that would be a tip that's kind of an underlying theme of this concept, is to fill in empty space with licks. And as guitar players, we're very good at filling in empty space with licks. So it should be on your mind anytime there's some space. Now, if we want to get a little bit more advanced here, we can start to think of these chord changes in a different form other than these, bar shapes that you may be used to. And the key here is to think about triads. And if you have no idea what triads are, check out my course, Guitar Super System, link down in the description, and you will be enlightened. So instead of playing something like this, we can actually kind of simplify the amount of space, and not necessarily simplify the chord forms or the chord shapes, but make our hands move less, essentially. So that chord progression in root position triad form would look like this. Still a little too much movement for me, so I'm going to try and take a couple inversions and a little bit of voice leading, which means making my hand move less but still accomplishing the same harmony on the fretboard here. So we will take this root position, and then our next chord here is B minor, so we can actually move this here. So far we got, and then we're going down to G, right? So right here. So we've got, that would be the back to home. Actually kind of sounds cool with the add 9 there. So now let's throw in these changes with a little bit of licks thrown in the empty spaces. So being able to identify triads up and across the neck is a huge advantage, especially trying to kind of fill out all the spaces. Maybe you're a singer-songwriter and you want to fill in the gaps, make your sound bigger, then triads are a great way to kind of identify certain points on the neck to do that. So with a chord progression simple like this is a great way to start with triads. You can start simply and then work your way up from there. So blending licks and chords together, it really starts with playing licks that contain chords within them using those double stops that we went over. And then also, after you have those double stop licks in your arsenal, moving to a more rhythmic backbone when it comes to blending these licks and chords together. So as you could hear, you don't have to do that much necessarily to sound really cool, in my opinion, when you're blending these things together. But it really just matters that you are on the beat, and from there you can begin to find little pockets of space where you can insert licks and blend them into chords, and there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever you feel the music requires, then do that and you'll probably end up in the right place. Again, check out Guitar Super System, link down in the description if you're interested in learning about the triad approach that I kind of took to this lesson. And of course, you can always find other triad lessons on my YouTube channel for free. So I hope this was a helpful lesson for you guys. And until next time, keep shredding.